Now, you can call it a genuine aspiration of a disenfranchised people or wished away as an agitation of some misguided youth, the violent execution of the sit-at-home order by members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, with its murderous grip on the socio-economic life of people in southeastern Nigeria, must not be taken lightly. Now, the current security situation in the region did not start today. Since 2015, secessionist tendencies have created a mobilizing force in the person of Nnamdi Kanu. Following his apprehension and detention, Kanu had become a rallying point for all manner of expressions, so much so that one Simon Ekpa, the vociferous teleguide directing the nefarious activities from Finland, will declare a sit-at-home in the entire southeastern region, and people will comply. Ekpa has announced another 2 weeks of sit-at-home that will be executed with the same level of violence. But an end needs to be in sight, as southeastern governors have been meeting and taking different steps to address the issues. Well, let's take a look at the economic impact the sit-at-home has on the southeastern region of the country and what can be done to change the fortunes of the current reality. First tonight, we'll take a look at Anambra State. Governor Soludo has been taking steps to put the state back on track economically, despite the sit-at-home orders and various unprecedented violence being unleashed in the state and the region. I have with me Christian Udechukwu, who's the Commissioner for Industry in Anambra and an international economist. Good to see you, and thanks for your time. You know, I'm quite sure when people see you outside Anambra State, first thing they should be asking is, what's happening? How free are you being able to express the fine details of your ministry? But quickly here, the industry life will come back to that. But again, how are the people coping in an era where someone thousands of miles away can order them to stay away from their daily livelihood and they will adhere?
Suleiman, thank you very much for having me on the program. I'm happy to be here. Anambra is safe and secure. Security is being restored. When Governor Soludo came into office a year ago, there were a number of local governments that were under siege. He made law and order his priority. And he had the support of the gallant professional armed services people who are deployed to Anambra: the police, the army, civil defense, state security services, vigilantes at a local level, community leaders, church members, church leaders, and so on. And collectively, they've taken back the state. The government has reclaimed the public space. There's an evidently massive show of force on the streets anytime there appears to be a sign of trouble. Now, you know, in a region where you have low intensity conflict, sometimes what happens is that there's always one or two persons that go out of their way to try and create an incident. And usually, because of the perceived role of the non-state actors in disrupting the peace and security of the Southeast, that singular incident is blown out of proportions. But what happens naturally is that every time there's a violation of the peace in the socio-economic space of Anambra, the state security services, the joint forces go into operation with the local vigilante. They track down the parties concerned, and they face the law. What happens half the time is that there's a violent exchange of fire, and these parties are instantly neutralized. The intelligence network on the activities have significantly improved. I can tell you that there used to be hideouts in the forests where they were known to hang out, but now there's not 1 inch of uncompleted building or forest space or private spaces or rented properties where they can find hiding space. You know, Anambra has always been one of those places where sometimes an uncommon incident happens. There was a time not so long ago when Onitsha was under siege by armed robbers. But the residents woke up one morning and took back their city. And that incident never reoccurred again. So, you know, we've had a situation where perhaps in the last few years, because of some degree of inaction or perhaps lack of coordination or sharing intelligence as they should between the agencies at the federal level and the state level, there was a vacuum created in the southeast of Nigeria and perhaps in Anambra also. And that vacuum created the space for non-state actors to come in and take space.
Let me jump in on that. The vacuum. You know, time was in the country, a lot of people look towards the southeast, industrious people, young people, the apprenticeship system, you know, education. You have a professor today who's a governor. You have a lot of big businesses going on in southeast. So the vacuum, one of it is unemployment. And how is your state now? You're in charge of industry. How is your state trying to bring back that lifestyle of the people? Once upon a time, it's always a thing of joy and pride to say, I'm a member of Omata. You say Omata people, the Onitsha market, you know, and so many other things. I'm happy you put a smile on your face, you chuckled on that. But now it's almost all gone.
No, it's not gone. It's not gone at all. What I can tell you is that, first of all, the public space in Anambra has been fully reclaimed. There's not 1 inch of space in any private compound, in any bush, in any space, even in an uncompleted building that is ceded to anybody. The state has full control. Governor Soludo is not a man to be intimidated. He's visionary, he's deliberate, he's purposeful. He's very intentional about almost everything that he does. And so we have taken back that space meticulously. And every time there's an incursion from wherever that is, we purposefully track them down, even if they have left the state. So they know that Anambra is a no-go area going forward, and that the environment has totally changed to a hostile one for them. Now, secondly, on the economic front, many things have been happening. Obviously, the governor has, in his first year, commissioned construction work on roads totaling well over 400 kilometers, far more than most of his predecessors have done in 8 years. He's recruited 5,000 teachers, almost 500 medical doctors, so there are jobs being created. Beyond that, the entire Anambra state has been turned into a plantation of palm oil and coconut seedlings. We've planted in the last 1 year over 1 million seedlings, and the expectation is that about 4 million will be. Now, this is not to say that any specific piece of land is dedicated to plantations. No. People are planting these palm seedlings in their compounds, in the backyard, in the front yard, and all of that. So the entire state is a plantation. And what that means, really, Suleiman, is that in about 3 years, the 240 billion or so that the government, federal government spends on, in terms of resources that are made available to manufacturers to import palm oil produce, will return, so a significant portion of that will be taken by Anambra State. We are also investing in industrial clusters, industrial parks. We're building new industrial zones. We're developing oil and gas free trade zones, export processing zones. As a matter of fact, we're unfolding a program where the top 100 industries in Anambra will be exporting to 54 African countries between now and the next 12 months. And that 100 company will be a feeder line of new companies to be listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
You know,
so a lot of things are happening.
You know, listening to you, and for the Nigerian who's not in Anambra State, one thing will be the same Anambra or the same Southeast where people can't freely move. You know, you spoke about what he's done so far, and I asked about unemployment, which is very important here.
Well,
yes.
I can tell you clearly that there's a lot of ongoing work to engage youths. We have a program called One Youth, Two Skills, and almost 100,000 youths have been signed up on that. We have 400 cooperatives springing out of that. We have about 20,000 youths that have been trained by the Innovation Center, Soludo Innovation Center, and that 20,000 youths have learned ICT skills. We have another 10,000 going through coding programs. In the next 6 months, we're having over 30,000, all the civil servants in Anambra, as a matter of fact. So let me make this point. Over 30,000 civil servants in Anambra are going to have smartphones in the next 6 months. And the purpose of that really is to migrate all the functions of government online.
Let me jump in on the ICT program. I'm excited about that. During the course of the training, how much of an effect did the sit-at-home cost the program?
Well, nobody has been able to put a real number on it. What you have is estimates flying up and down. And as I said, in the last 8 years, the way it has been dealt with haphazardly, there was no coordination between the governors in the region. And as I say, also there was a disconnect between the federal government and the state governments, on the security front. But
has that changed?
Most significantly, which is why I'm telling you that what you see, what you hear sometimes in the media is a reflection of what they imagine to be. Because those of us who are in Anambra, nobody sits at home. The Executive Council sits on Mondays. Sometimes we sit on Tuesday, sometimes we sit on Wednesday. So there's work on Mondays. And if you take a chance to drive into Anambra on Monday, you will see for yourself. And it's a challenge you can take up with your crew. Drive into Anambra from Onitsha and move around and you see things for yourself. Life is returning back to normal. As I say, what happens, because this enforcement is just a case of one miscreant kicking down a tray of groundnuts somewhere and people think, there's a problem. No, there's not. And anybody who's doing that now knows that they'll face the law instantly. And in most cases, as I say, they're neutralized.
Even though that's not in your state, but again, I'm quite sure you must have seen some amateur videos of people wielding guns, shooting sporadically, and not people kicking.
They cannot do that in Anambra now.
Kicking trays of groundnut.
They cannot do that in Anambra now. It cannot happen because there's no space.
And the traditional institution, how are they weighing in on seeing, on helping to see that this is truly over?
Yes. Everybody is playing a role. It's a collective duty, it's a collective responsibility. I can tell you that in Anambra now, one person who shoots a gun on one street cannot enter the second street. He cannot escape through the third one alive. It's that simple. It's very serious.
So let's talk about, let's wrap up on the future of Southeast Nigeria. When people talk about sit at home in the Southeast, whether we like it or not, what affects the Southeast ultimately will have a ripple effect, in other parts of the country. So speaking, looking at the projection for the future, what should Nigeria expect from that once boisterous region?
Well, Nigeria can expect prosperity. For the first time, we have a governor in Anambra, as I say, whose ambitions is to build a smart megacity in Anambra State. That really requires two components: physical infrastructure underground, which is why we're doing more roads than anybody has ever done in Anambra State. Then the digital space being developed, which is why we have an ICT agency that is building a backbone for everything technology, which is why I was telling you a few minutes ago that all civil servants in Anambra State going forward will have smart digital handsets, enabling them to perform government services from virtually any location. We're also instituting a clocking system that still enables people to monitor, once this digital smart government is introduced, that people don't use that as a reason to stay away from the office because they can perform their assignment anywhere. So we are going to have a digital clocking system that still says this person is in the office, and they can still, take permission for absenteeism and so on. We are deliberately developing our industries. That's why I was telling you about the top 100 companies exporting. We have a plan in place that is going to be unfolded in October for these 100 companies to begin export into 54 African countries, deepening the integration of the African market, expanding the frontiers of trade for Nigeria in a deliberate, purposeful manner.
And what kind of economic protection and fiscal protection the investors have in Anambra State?
It's by law. all investments in Anambra are protected by law. That's why the Anambra Investment Agency, by name and by law, is Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency. So we protect all investments within the state. We guarantee it by law. Anambra has always been the home of industry. As you know, the first African millionaire, the first known African billionaire was from Anambra State. And he built the Nigerian Stock Exchange as we know it today. He established it in Lagos. We had some of the best transport companies coming out of Anambra that once controlled over 75% of the road transport network in Nigeria. Don't forget Udechukwu and all that. So today, and we have some of the world's leading industries in Anambra. We have a car manufacturer that makes anything, ambulances, armored trucks,
I think we can
mass
go on
bus
and
transit, and so on and so forth.
That is why Anambra should even beat Lagos. No, speaking seriously. And we're hoping that we can have this conversation in the days to come. Christian Udechukwu, international economist and commissioner for industry, would like to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.